Human, show what you're hiding under your clothes, dirty animal, alien girl. The interstellar cultural exchange station floated silently between three star systems. It was not owned by any single species. It belonged to diplomacy itself. For the first time in known galactic history, humans were present as official representatives, not observers, not workers, but equals. Ambassador Elias Grant stood inside the main council chamber. He wore a simple dark uniform, clean and practical. No armor, no weapons, no visible technology except a small translation band on his wrist. Around him sat beings of many shapes and sizes, scaled, furred, crystalline, floating in forms that did not easily fit any single idea of life. Most of them were watching him closely. Humans were new. That alone made them suspicious. For centuries, the galactic community believed that advanced species followed a clear pattern: visible strength, biological advantages, or overwhelming natural weapons. Humans seemed to break that rule. They had soft skin, no claws, no fangs, and weak eyesight compared to many others. Yet they had crossed stars faster than expected and solved problems that confused older civilizations. This contradiction made many aliens uncomfortable. Among them was Surixa of the Valen, a young but influential cultural analyst. Her species believed that hiding the body was a sign of fear or deception. On Valen worlds, showing one's natural form was proof of honesty and power. She stared at the human ambassador with open irritation. The council moderator signaled for cultural commentary. Surixa rose from her seat, her silver eyes fixed on Elias. "Human," she said through the translator, her voice sharp and clear, "show what you are hiding under your clothes, dirty animal." The chamber fell into sudden silence. Several delegates reacted immediately. Some hissed in shock, others shifted uncomfortably. A few mechanical observers increased their recording speed. The words were not meant as humor. Elias felt the attention press down on him like gravity, but his face did not change. He did not shout. He did not show anger. Instead, he took a slow breath and waited for the translator to confirm the meaning. It did. He nodded once. "Representative Surixa," Elias said calmly, his voice steady and respectful, "I believe there has been a misunderstanding." Surixa tilted her head. "There is no misunderstanding. Your species covers itself constantly. You hide your true form. That behavior suggests weakness, shame, or deceit. Which is it?" Elias clasped his hands behind his back, a human gesture that meant patience. "None of those," he replied. Human clothing is not about hiding power. It is about choice, environment, and culture. Murmurs spread across the chamber. Surix's eyes narrowed. "Then remove it, prove your claim." The moderator raised a limb to interrupt, but Elias spoke first. "I will not," he said gently. That refusal shocked more than anger would have. Many species expected humans to react emotionally. Some had predicted violence. Others expected submission. Instead, Elias remained still, unthreatened. "I will not," he repeated, "because my worth does not depend on exposing my body, and because respect must go both ways." Silence returned, deeper than before. Surixa felt something unexpected: confusion. If humans were weak, they should feel insulted. If they were dangerous, they should respond aggressively. But Elias did neither. He stood there like someone who knew exactly who he was. The moderator cleared its throat sac. "Cultural clarification will proceed," it announced. "Representative Grant, you may explain." Elias nodded. "Thank you." He turned slowly, addressing the entire council. "Humans evolved on a world with changing climates," he began. "Heat, cold, storms, radiation, and disease. We survived not because our bodies were perfect, but because our minds adapted. Clothing was one of our earliest tools. It protected us. It helped us travel. It allowed cooperation." He paused, letting the translation systems keep up. "We do not hide because we are ashamed. We cover ourselves because we understand limits and how to overcome them without pretending they do not exist." Some delegates leaned forward. Surixa crossed her arms. Pretty words, still hiding. Elias looked at her directly, not with anger but with curiosity. Tell me, Representative Surixa, when your people display their bodies, what are they trying to prove? She answered without hesitation. Strength, honesty, dominance. Elias nodded. Then that is where we differ. Humans do not need dominance to prove strength. That statement echoed through the chamber. A crystalline delegate emitted a faint harmonic tone, interest. A machine intelligence logged a probability spike. Human cultural model revision required. Surixa felt irritation rising again. You expect us to trust a species that hides its nature? Elias smiled slightly, not mockingly but warmly. We are not hiding our nature, he said. We are showing it right now. She frowned. Standing still. No, he replied. Listening, explaining. Choosing restraint when insulted. The word restraint caused a ripple of reaction. Among many species, restraint was not considered a virtue. Power was meant to be displayed. Concealed power was dangerous. The moderator spoke again. Representative Surixa, your statement has been logged as a cultural provocation. Do you wish to revise it? She hesitated. For the first time since speaking, she realized the human had not been humiliated. If anything, the attention had shifted. The room was no longer judging him, it was judging her. I do not withdraw my concern, she said carefully, but I will observe further. Elias inclined his head. That is all we ask. The session ended shortly after. Delegates dispersed into discussion clusters, speaking in low tones. Humans were not what they expected. As Elias walked toward the exit corridor, Surixa watched him from a distance. Her instincts told her something important had just happened. She had tried to expose weakness and found none. Instead, she had exposed ignorance. Later, in a quiet observation chamber, Surixa reviewed the recordings. The human's heart rate had remained steady. No stress spikes. No aggression markers. Impossible, she whispered. Humans hid something, but not under their clothes. They hid it in their behavior. And for the first time, Surixa wondered whether uncovering that truth might change the balance of the galaxy. Surixa did not sleep after the council session. Sleep for the Valen was not required in the same way it was for humans, but they still entered long periods of rest to organize thought patterns. That night, she could not. The image of the human ambassador standing calmly under insult replayed again and again in her mind. He had not defended himself with force. He had not begged for approval. He had simply been certain. That disturbed her. By the next cycle, Surixa formally requested access to the Human Cultural Archive, something she had never done for any newly contacted species. Her request was approved faster than expected. Humans, it seemed, were unusually open. Too open, in her opinion. She entered the archive chamber alone. A soft blue light filled the space as human data streams activated. A neutral artificial intelligence greeted her. Welcome, Representative Surixa, it said. What would you like to study? She hesitated, then answered honestly. I want to know what humans hide. The AI paused for a fraction of a second. Please clarify. Not physically, she said, culturally. The AI adjusted its output. Images formed in the air. Early human shelters, stitched clothing, tools made from stone and bone. Surixa watched carefully. The AI narrated in simple, factual terms. Humans evolved without natural armor, claws, or high-speed regeneration. Survival depended on cooperation, planning, and tool creation. Surixa leaned closer. You admit weakness. We acknowledge limitation, the AI replied. Humans do not consider limitation the same as weakness. That phrase echoed in her thoughts. She reviewed footage of early human explorers crossing frozen lands using layered clothing, deserts using protective fabrics, and space using suits that created artificial environments. You hide yourselves everywhere, Surixa muttered. Correction, the AI said. Humans adapt environments to themselves and themselves to environments. The difference was small but important. Hours passed as Surixa studied human history. Wars, yes, but also recovery. Collapse followed by rebuilding. Failures openly recorded and studied rather than erased. Most strange of all was how humans spoke about power. They feared it. In human records, unchecked power always led to disaster, so they created laws, rules, cultural limits. Clothing, she realized, was part of the same idea: containment. Later that cycle, Surixa requested a private meeting with Ambassador Grant. Elias arrived without guards, again wearing the same simple uniform. No decorations, no status symbols. "You wish to speak?" he asked politely. "Yes," she replied. "I am reassessing." That alone was difficult for her to say. They sat across from each other in a neutral meeting room. Transparent walls showed distant stars drifting slowly. "You said humans hide nothing shameful," Surixa began, "but your history is full of conflict, violence, contradiction." Elias nodded. "That's true. You admit it freely?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because pretending perfection only delays learning," he said simply. Surixa studied his posture, relaxed but attentive, not submissive, not dominant. "You could have answered my insult with strength," she said. "Many species would. We chose not to," Elias replied. "Why?" "Because strength that must be proven on demand is not strength," he said. "It's insecurity." That statement struck her harder than expected. On Valen worlds, children were taught early to display their bodies proudly, to show claws and muscle density, to assert dominance before others could challenge it. Hiding was dangerous. Exposure meant survival. Humans had reversed that logic. "You wear clothes to hide your limits," she said slowly. Elias shook his head. "We wear them to accept our limits and work around them." He tapped the table lightly. "Clothing is technology, so are laws, so is diplomacy. They protect us from ourselves as much as from others." Surixa felt an unfamiliar sensation, unease mixed with respect. "If humans removed all these protections," she asked, "what would remain?" Elias looked at her carefully. "People," he said, "flawed, emotional, capable of terrible mistakes, and incredible cooperation." She did not like that answer. It suggested danger, not the obvious kind, but something deeper. In the following days, Surixa observed humans across the station. Engineers sharing tools without hierarchy. Medics treating alien patients without hesitation. Humans adapting their behavior constantly, adjusting speech, posture, and customs depending on who they spoke to. They hid nothing from observation, yet she still felt they were holding something back. One cycle, she overheard a conversation between two human technicians. A system's failure had delayed power routing. Instead of blaming each other, they quietly divided tasks and solved it. "No reward?" Surixa asked one of them afterward. The technician smiled. "Station works. That's enough." That answer stayed with her. Later, she confronted Elias again. "You hide ambition," she said. "We manage it," he corrected. "You hide aggression. We control it. You hide dominance. We don't need it." Each response felt rehearsed but not false. That night, Surixa recorded a personal log. "Humans do not display power," she said. "They store it, like compressed energy. Their restraint is not weakness. It is a decision." She paused before continuing. "If such a species ever decides to stop restraining itself, the consequences would be unpredictable." The realization frightened her, but it also made her curious. The next council session was announced shortly after. A system-wide resource allocation problem had escalated into political tension. Several species were competing for the same energy corridor. Traditionally, this kind of conflict ended with dominance displays or forced arbitration. Humans requested to participate. Many delegates protested. "They are inexperienced," some argued. "They hide their nature," others said. Surixa remained silent. She was no longer sure who the real danger was. As Elias prepared his delegation, Surixa watched from across the chamber. The human team did not look powerful. They looked organized, calm. focused. For the first time, Surixa understood the true meaning of the insult she had spoken. Humans did hide something under their clothes, not weapons, not claws. They hid discipline, patience, and a kind of power that waited until it was needed. And the galaxy was about to see it. The council chamber was fuller than usual. Delegates filled every level, their forms glowing, shifting, or humming with quiet tension. At the center of the chamber floated a large projection of the Aurelian Energy Corridor, a vast network that powered dozens of star systems. Demand had grown faster than expected. Supply had not. Arguments had already begun before the session officially started. "The corridor belongs to those who discovered it," said one delegate, a tall reptilian being with hardened scales. "Discovery does not equal ownership," replied a floating luminescent entity. "Usage history proves priority. Priority proves dominance," another voice interrupted. The noise grew louder. At the outer edge of the chamber, the human delegation waited. They did not interrupt. They did not raise their voices. They watched. Surixa stood among the cultural observers, her attention fixed on Ambassador Elias Grant. He was reading data on a small display, calm as if nothing important was happening. She wondered how he could be so relaxed. The moderator finally activated a signal pulse. Silence spread slowly, reluctantly. "This council faces a systemic crisis," the moderator announced. "Traditional resolution methods have failed. The human delegation has requested permission to propose an alternative." Murmurs followed, some skeptical, some curious. "Permission granted," the moderator said. Elias stepped forward. He did not take the central platform. Instead, he stood slightly to the side, closer to the data projection than the delegates themselves. "Thank you," he said. "We are not here to claim the corridor. We are here to help you keep it working." Several delegates reacted with confusion. "That is not how disputes are settled," one said. "Maybe that's the problem," Elias replied gently. He raised his hand and the projection changed. The energy corridor split into layers, showing flow rates, consumption spikes, and long-term degradation patterns. "Your conflict is based on ownership," Elias continued. "But the system doesn't care who owns it, it only responds to how it's used." Surixa leaned forward. "This data," a crystalline delegate said, "where did you obtain it?" "With permission," Elias answered. "Shared by those willing to cooperate." That statement caused a ripple. Elias continued, "Humans learned long ago that fighting over limited resources destroys them faster, so we developed another approach." He paused. "Optimization." The word was unfamiliar to some species. "We mapped consumption cycles," he said. "Not just current needs, but cultural patterns, festivals, growth seasons, migration periods, maintenance windows." The projection shifted again. Colors flowed smoothly, now balanced. "You want us to take turns," a delegate scoffed. "No," Elias said. "We want you to coordinate." He pointed to overlapping demand peaks. "Right now, many of you require maximum output at the same time. That is not necessity, that is habit." Surixa felt something click in her mind. Humans were not solving the problem by deciding who was strongest. They were changing how the problem was defined. "What do humans gain from this?" asked a sharp metallic voice. Elias smiled faintly. "Stability, trade, trust." "And power," someone accused. Elias shook his head. "Influence maybe, power only if misused." That honesty unsettled the chamber. The moderator processed the proposal. "Simulation required." "Already prepared," Elias said. The simulation began. As the delegates watched, the corridor's projected lifespan extended. Output stabilized. No species lost access. Some even gained efficiency. Silence followed. Not the tense silence of conflict, but the heavy silence of realization. "This required sharing internal data," Surixa said aloud before she could stop herself. Elias looked at her and nodded. "Yes, that is risky." "It is," he agreed, "but secrecy is riskier." A few delegates protested. "If we share, others will exploit it." Elias replied, "That is why the system is mutual. Exploitation becomes visible. And visible behavior is accountable. Accountable. Another human concept that echoed through the chamber. The moderator spoke again. This solution avoids dominance displays. That is unusual. It avoids waste, Elias said. The vote was called. One by one, species signaled agreement. Not all, but enough. The resolution passed. For the first time in council history, a major resource dispute ended without threat, force, or humiliation. As delegates dispersed, Surixa approached Elias. "You revealed much," she said quietly. "More than your body ever could." Elias chuckled softly. "We revealed a method." "No," she corrected. "You revealed trust." She studied him carefully. "Why risk it?" "Because hiding everything creates enemies," he said. "Choosing what to share creates partners." Surixa looked around the chamber. Delegates were already talking, planning joint maintenance, shared oversight, new agreements. The balance had shifted. Later, Surixa recorded another personal log. "Humans do not dominate," she said. "They redesign systems so dominance becomes irrelevant." She paused, her voice lower. "This may be more dangerous than force." The council formally recognized the human delegation for conflict resolution excellence. Applause echoed, some organic, some mechanical. Elias accepted with a simple bow. He did not smile for the recognition. He smiled because the corridor would last. As the session ended, Surixa realized something profound. The trial had not been about energy. It had been about revelation. Humans had shown what they hid, not under their clothes but within their culture. They hid patience until impatience failed. They hid cooperation until competition collapsed. They hid power until power was no longer needed. And now the galaxy had seen it. Whether it was ready or not, the interstellar cultural exchange station felt different after the council decision. There was no celebration, no victory chants, no public displays of dominance. Yet something had changed in the air. Delegates spoke more calmly. Shared tables replaced separated ones. Data channels that had once been locked now opened slowly, carefully. Humans had not taken control. They had changed behavior. Surixa noticed it everywhere. She stood near one of the wide observation windows, watching a mixed group of species work together on corridor maintenance planning. Humans listened more than they spoke. When they did speak, others listened. That disturbed her more than any display of strength could have. For the first time in her career, Surixa felt the weight of her own words. "Dirty animal." The insult echoed in her thoughts, sharp and heavy. She had believed it justified. Humans had seemed weak, hidden, uncertain. Now she saw that they had been none of those things. They had been controlled. The next council assembly was announced shortly after. This one was not about crisis or conflict. It was ceremonial, meant to record the corridor agreement into galactic law. Still, attendance was higher than usual. When the moderator opened the floor, Surixa stood. The chamber quieted instantly. Many remembered her words from the first session. She walked slowly to the center platform. Her posture was formal, but her movements were stiff. This was not easy for her. "I speak as representative of the Valen," she began, "and as one who made an error." A wave of surprise moved through the chamber. She turned toward the human delegation. Elias Grant stood among them, calm as ever. "Human ambassador," she said, her voice steady but lower than usual. "In our first meeting, I demanded that you reveal what you hid under your clothes. I spoke from ignorance." The chamber remained silent. "I believed exposure meant honesty," she continued. "That visible strength meant truth. I was wrong." Some delegates shifted, others leaned forward. "You did not hide weakness," Surixa said. "You hid restraint, you hid patience. You hid the choice not to dominate when you could." She paused, then did something unheard of among the Valen. She lowered her head. "I apologize," she said, "to you and to your species." The words carried through the chamber, recorded and transmitted across star systems. Elias did not respond immediately. When he did, he stepped forward, not onto the platform but beside it. "Apology accepted," he said simply. There was no demand for recognition, no dramatic speech, just acceptance. The moderator spoke. "This apology will be recorded as a formal correction of cultural misunderstanding." Surixa straightened. "There is more," she said. She faced the council. "Humans have shown us something rare," she continued. "A species that understands its own limits and builds systems to protect against them. They do not hide to deceive. They hide to prevent harm." She looked around the chamber. "If we judge them by our standards alone, we will misunderstand them again." A mechanical delegate emitted a confirmation tone. A crystalline being shimmered in agreement. The moderator concluded the session. But the moment did not end there. Later, in a quiet corridor, Surixa approached Elias privately. "I do not expect forgiveness," she said. "Only understanding." Elias smiled gently. "Understanding is enough." She studied him. "You never demanded an apology." "No," he said, "because demanding respect defeats its purpose." That answer stayed with her. Over the following cycles, humans became quiet advisors rather than leaders. They helped build shared frameworks, not empires. When asked why, Elias always gave the same answer. "Because lasting systems matter more than short victories." The phrase spread. On distant worlds, the story of the insult and apology was retold, not as humiliation but as a lesson. Children of many species learned it in cultural studies. Humans wear clothes not to hide shame, but to carry civilization with them. Surixa herself changed. She rewrote Valen cultural manuals to include human perspectives. She argued against forced displays of dominance in first-contact situations. At first, she was mocked. Then, slowly, she was listened to. One evening, she stood again at the observation window. Stars drifted quietly. The energy corridor pulsed smoothly in the distance, stable and balanced. Elias joined her. "You were right," she said softly. "About what?" "What humans hide," she replied. "It was never physical." Elias nodded. "We hide our worst impulses until we learn how to handle them." "And your greatest strength?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "Choice." She considered that. "Then your clothes," she said, "are a reminder of that choice." "Yes," he agreed. "Every day." The galaxy did not fear humans after that. It respected them. Not because humans were the strongest. Not because they were the fastest. Not because they were the most advanced. But because they could be trusted with power and chose not to abuse it. The insult that once echoed through the council halls became a famous quote, taught as a warning. Never assume what humans hide under their clothes, because what they truly carried was far more important than claws or weapons. They carried responsibility. And that, the galaxy learned, was the most powerful thing of all.